Can't convince me that all of you that are playing college football 25, especially those of you who are doing Road to Glory, that at some point during the time that you will be playing this game, that you're not going to take your player in the Road to Glory, bring him to a very small school, and in that, at the end of year one, hit the transfer portal. Because I got to tell you, it's exactly what I'm doing in my first Road to Glory. I picked Tulane. Yes, I stayed inside the state of Louisiana, a 5-star quarterback out of the 985, literally went to Tulane. We are 7-0 right now, beating teams like Oklahoma, beating teams like Kansas State. Are we, the Tulane Green Wave, about to make the college football playoff as a 12 seed? I am just saying to the Tulane faithful that might be out there, at the end of the year, I might enter the portal. There's a very strong possibility that I will be entering the portal. Nevertheless, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? Hope all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Gonna try to keep the show around an hour tonight. There is a possibility, though, that we won't do that, that it might be an hour 20, hour and a half long show. So many things that we got to get to. We're going to talk about every SEC team besides LSU that was at media days, the positive and negative swirling around media days, the way that I see it, for all 15 teams not named LSU. We'll do that here tonight. Ross Dellinger spoke with Brian Kelly, also broke some news today about baseball that will benefit Jay Johnson. The revenue sharing piece, the scholarship piece for baseball. We're going to dive pretty deep into that tonight. I think that is pretty significant. Brian Kelly saying that the LSU TV revenue share will probably be around 14 to $17 million. We're going to use the 17 million figure tonight because it gives us a little bit more round numbers here and the discussion that we will have. But nevertheless, TV revenue sharing is here. And we got to talk about it because, hey, man, kids are about to start making, I shouldn't call them kids, players are about to start making a lot of money outside of the NIL space. The SEC, or teams inside the SEC and Big Ten, et cetera, are not going to be able to harbor all of the TV revenue money. You know, it's interesting. If football, as an example, is having to spend $17 million in revenue share, where does the other $43 million of the 60 that they're going to get in the new TV contract? Making the playoffs has never been bigger, right? Because of the TV revenue money that you will get there to add more money into this. So we'll discuss about that. Arguably the biggest news, I don't want to say of the week, but pretty significant, from not just talking about recruiting, but the biggest news has got to be the baseball news being able to add into the potentially, it's not finalized yet, but the NCAA allowing there to be scholarships and rosters for college baseball in the mid-30s. And look, it had been 11.7. I mean, I know that the way that Ross had worded it kind of left some people confused, but it was specified that you could have a full 35 on scholarship, full scholarship, if your school is going to allow it. So we'll talk about that here tonight. But 11.7 all the way to the mid-30s. It's a massive day for programs like LSU, not just LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Florida, Vandy, Arkansas. So I don't know how to say this, but I do believe personally that college baseball might be one of the biggest sports on the rise here. We've talked about that a lot, but just the amount of money that's being flown around in NIL, guys like William Schmidt, as an example, actually coming to campus, Bear Jones actually coming back to LSU. So we'll touch on that as well. Recruiting update. I had like 6 of you today ask me when the Bayou Splash will be. It's going to be next Friday. At least it's what staff is confirming. We'll start next Friday on the 26th. We'll break that down. Derek Meadows, Jabari Antoine commits this weekend. We talked about it last night. We'll give you a little bit more here tonight about that. At the end of the show, we might answer some questions, thoughts, questions, concerns. Fire them inside of the Rudy Crew chat. We'll get to as many of them tonight as we can. Where's everybody listening to from tonight? Are you in the 985, the 337, the 225, the 318-31 great? Or are you in the 404? We've had a lot of people from whatever area code 404 is commenting in the show that is where they're listening from. Are you in the 678, the 817, the greater Atlanta area? Are you out somewhere in Texas? Let us know where you are here tonight. David says he's in the 225. Zachary, the 337. Charlie Viator says all day. Epic Shorty is in the 985. Matt says he's in the 205. The 919, excuse me, guys, is in the building. The 678 making an appearance. Jaden Burrow making an appearance here. Cody McGee with a $199 super chat says thoughts on Alabama renaming their stadium. So Cody, for me, I don't understand why some people had some pushback here. You know what I mean? Like I don't really understand why some people had some pushback here, but nevertheless, Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, I have no issues with that at all. I have zero issues with that. No, none. Zero. I mean, the man won 7 national titles. He won 6 at Alabama. That's the least that they could do is name the field after him. Paul Ferrer, our good friends over at J&J Exterminate, says Punchy on the program. Good to have you here, my good friend. Glad you're here with us. The 404 Atlanta says, Mal, yeah, man. The 404 always representing inside of the chat. Cedric says in the 757, where I haven't seen that one before. Where is the 757? Our good friend Tyler Townsend says the 318-31 great is in the building. My man sent me a hat, man. My man sent me a hat. I'm telling you. Tyler Townsend, one of the elite AYS followers. Brandon Richardson says, I'm in the 505, looking forward to possibly attending the LSU versus USC game. Yeah, going to be fun, man. Going to be fun. We're less than are coming up on a month, about a month away, right? We're coming close to the 40-day mark. So a little bit more than a month before that game kicks off. I am excited. More than excited. Miss some football. I will tell you, as I led the show off here tonight, look, I'm just college football 25 is definitely going to make this process a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Very interesting, too. Playing with LSU, there are some guys that opted out, like Sage Ryan, Don McKinley. I'm trying to think of a couple more. John Emery. Maybe that is it. Maybe I'm missing a couple that I can't think of right now. But, yeah, there were some LSU players that opted out. Good on them. But, yeah, Keith Doucette says 45 days. So, getting close, man. Getting ever so close. And we'll start we'll be out at camp day 1. I think it's going to be August 1st, August the 2nd. You know, Aaron Anderson, that's right. Go hard or go home, says Aaron Anderson's not there. Yeah, good point. Xavion Thomas is a dog on that game. A dog. Pure out dog. Brian Turner says, Blake, PJ Woodland versus Zachariah Branch. Who you got? Look, here's what I would say. We've seen Zachariah Branch in a live game against another opponent. We haven't necessarily seen PJ Woodland. We've seen him in spring. I think PJ really can play. You know, Brian Kelly said, and we clipped this. It's on all of our social medias. You can go follow it. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of that. Said he can't, said PJ Woodland came to him 157, 158 pounds, bulked up to or got up to about 175, 180. The kid can cover, man, and he's not afraid to hit you. I don't know. I want to see a fall, a full fall camp from PJ Woodland, and let's see how his summer went. I hope that he locks him down. I just think it's unfair for us to look in game one and say that, could he lock him down or is he going to get beat? I don't know. A guy like Zachariah Branch, though, I would say personally that you're not going to keep him down very long, right? Like you're not going to keep down a guy like that very long. He's going to get his. So you just got a game plan around it. I do think to add on to that, Blake Baker's comments the last couple of weeks were pretty key about already breaking down what Lincoln does. You're going to have to go right at him and punch him in the mouth, man. Go right after him and punch him in the mouth. No holds bars, brothers and sisters. Marvis, a couple more, then we'll get rolling. Marvis says, does Zy Alexander play game one? I don't know. I highly doubt that he I highly doubt that he does. I mean, guys, like him and John Emery had ACL tears very late. Could he? It is a possibility. It is a possibility he could. I mean, in talking to some, it would appear that his rehab has gone a little bit better than maybe some thought a couple of months ago. So we'll see. I'm going to be real with you. I think it's very difficult to throw out a guy that is coming off a surgery like that. Like if he's only in camp for 2 weeks, I would not throw him out there like that. I would not throw him out there like that. And, we do this in baseball a lot more than we do football. Guys that come back from injury, especially when they have an injury late in the season, in baseball, we're talking about Newt. Last year, he only threw a game. I mean, I think we need to be cautious. Need to be cautious. You need your seniors, all of your seniors in the DB room to step up. You need development to happen at that position. Our good buddy Tom on Facebook says, so how many times you take the Tigers to the Natty in EA Sports college football game? Only once so far. I kind of wanted to play everything. So I have won a national title with LSU. And like I just said, Tom, I committed to Tulane as a 5-star quarterback. And I'm going to hit the portal. I am going to make these people pay me a ridiculous amount of money in the transfer portal to my player. My player's name is Ben Ruffino, so that's my son. They are going to have to pay him north of $1 million to go there. Well, north of $1 million. So Tulane is going to be the team that does make the 12-team playoff in my road to glory, and then we're hitting the portal, and we're going money hunting, y'all. We're going money hunting. Just saying. Just saying. Nebraska was recruiting us pretty hard, believe it or not. Are we going to get the Big Red Machine back up to their dynasty? Who knows, man? Who knows? Stephen Young says, I didn't watch Miller Moss in the bowl. What type of quarterback is he? Heard he did well. Look, he's more of a guy that's going to sit in the pocket. He's not going to improvise. He's going to run the system. And listen, this is what I've tried to say about Miller Moss. And I know that Lincoln has said there's a competition at that position at quarterback. I thought that Caleb Williams, for whatever it's worth, last year, and I think that Lincoln would tell you this, and Lincoln's going to probably say it to some extent, at Big Ten Media Days next week. I really, truly believe that Caleb Williams improvised way too much last year. There is nothing wrong with being inside the system. Like, I'll give an example. I thought Burrow in 19 really was complimenting off the system that he was running. Now, it doesn't change that Joe Burrow is a gangster, but sometimes you got to play within the system. There's a reason why your coach is calling things, because they are seeing stuff upstairs. I just don't understand what people – now, Caleb Williams has all the tools, but I thought Miller Moss against a Louisville team who, by the way, was depleted last season or in the bowl game, I thought Miller Moss played well. He's going to throw or going to have passes that are in coverage. And, look, this is something that we are way too early for all of this. But remember that we say this on July the 18th. Miller Moss will put some passes in danger. It is going to be a very massive key for you in that game to pick off some passes. Because he's gonna put one in bad coverage. You got to be there and you got to pick it off. You got to win some of these turnover battles. You know, in 22, man, when you won the West, you had a lot more turnovers than you did a year ago. What is Blake Baker going to do? We're going to find out. All right, let's get rolling. Everybody, do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to all those groups. Share to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag, our good friend Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty, and our good friends over at J&J Exterminating. Tons to discuss. Got lots to get to here. It's a big-time Thursday. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
We're back.
All right. So as we were coming on the show here, there was some breaking news. Now, I know that we don't really cover the Saints like that, but it is pretty significant. Ian Rappaport is reporting that Ryan Ramczyk is done for the season. You know, it's interesting. Somebody kind of called this a little when you drafted a right tackle with the first pick in the first round of the draft this past season. Look, coaches, GMs, front office personnel, they are not rocket scientists. they will tell you everything that you need to know by your actions. Now, I think when we talk about recruiting here tonight, some of you might want to remember that was said. Look at the actions, not necessarily always the words. But Ryan Ramczyk, the Pro Bowl right tackle, is going to be out with a knee injury. Look, man, it stinks for him. I don't know if you can battle back from something like that. Here's to hoping that he can. But nevertheless, Godspeed to Ryan Ramczyk. But there was a reason that you did that in the first round and took a right tackle. I mean, Fuaga played right tackle at Oregon State all last year. What did you think you were going after? If the Saints drafted a left tackle next season, and let's just say that's Will Campbell, Will won't be there, but God forbid the Saints really suck. You never know. If they take a guy like Will Campbell, I mean, they're moving on from Trevor Penning. I mean, it's no different than when they take quarterbacks, what they think. I thought that was always obvious. All right, let's get to it. So Ross Dellinger broke two pieces of news today that were very significant. Now, and I know, and everybody knows that SEC Media Days was this weekend. So Ross was able to talk to some coaches, talk to Greg Sankey, and get a couple quotes. One coming from Brian Kelly that is very significant. Brian Kelly told Ross Dellinger in reference to TV revenue share that the share that the players will get, the LU5 players that are on scholarship, that the annual budget of TV revenue will be between $14 and $17 million. Now, stop right there. Because I know what you're going to say. Blake, all the players are going to be making $14 to $17 million. Let's break that down in its entirety in the beginning. Let's just say, which LSU does at the current moment, have 85 scholarship players on your team. That's the limit that you can have here. Of that $17 million divided by the 85 players, guys, that's $200,000 a year in TV revenue that scholarship athletes will make. Now, I do, and this isn't the time to talk about this, but I do have a question. I do have the question of what happens to the other $43 million. Does more come from that to baseball, basketball, women's basketball? How is that revenue shared? But maybe LSU is not going to be able to hold on to all of that TV revenue money like they have been doing in the past. Now, I'm sure that they get a cut of that. I'm sure they get a share of that. But we are in a new age and new era. I know that, and it feels like for AYS specific, not necessarily when I do Ruffino and Joe show, but I feel like our conversations over the last couple of months have revolved a lot around money. And I know that you hate talking about that, but this is significant news. I'm going to tell you the truth. However, I don't think that stops anything that happens in recruiting with NIL. I don't think that stops with anything at the current moment with collectives. I think collectives and NIL is still going to be a massive player because teams are still going to want to recruit. And NIL is not going anywhere. The Supreme Court has not ruled that NIL is now going to be made legal because you're doing TV revenue share. So when you have a guy like DJ Pickett, or you have other big-time players like Bryce Underwood, and the federal government and everybody makes it legal for now that players that are in high school can talk with representatives about the NIL package that they would be receiving when they would go to a certain school. Guys, all of this is legal now. I don't think anything of it stops. Maybe it would significantly take a step back. Some people think that it will take a significant step back. I am on the opposite train here. I don't think the money's going to stop flowing whatsoever. I think it's going to start ramping up. Now, could it calm down? Will people potentially not worry about it as much because of the TV revenue share? Like, so for an example, if you don't know what TV revenue share is, I probably should have explained that in the opening, but basically, guys, the SEC gets paid a significant amount of money from ESPN about all the stuff that they do on TV. LSU gets paid their cut off of that. Now LSU is going to have to trickle that down to the players. It's not very difficult, but I know that I'm probably going to get that question. Maybe it will stop some of it. I mean, $200,000 a year, guys, is a lot of money. I don't think it stops for the big dogs. I don't think it stops for the top elite players. Maybe it will calm some things down. I can't wrap my head around that it will. Now, some have suggested, excuse me, that NIL is going to, or collectives are going to start having a cap on them. That doesn't stop NIL. That doesn't stop a business owner in Auburn, Alabama, if Hugh Freeze needs money to go and get a player that he wants. It's not going to stop that. They're just not going to give the money to the collective. They're going to give it somewhere else, to the player, and do an NIL deal. It's kind of basically what LSU has been doing since before TAF and Bayou Traditions were together. Could collectives be capped? Yeah, I'm never going to say it won't be. I just won't. I know that everybody is pushing for federal legislation for there to be one centric law in all 50 states. Okay, it's you can do all of that, and everybody can be playing from the same rules. I just don't see the light at the end of this tunnel of people saying that there will be a cap on collectives. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. I don't know. But I will never say that it won't be. So could we get to an age where there's a cap? Potentially. I just don't know what I don't know, and I'm not in those meetings, so I couldn't tell you. NIL is not going to stop. Name, image, and likeness will not stop. If there's a 5-star bona fide player that you not only want but desperately need, you're going to go after him. All hands will be on deck here for that. Will it stop some? Potentially. Some for being crazy, potentially. Something that's interesting, man. Could you imagine? I do think that this changes some philosophy on when you offer players and offer kids. Let me explain why. Because if there's a player that's not necessarily being recruited by all the big schools, maybe they're a late bloomer, maybe they're a late riser, I do wonder when you offer a kid in this state that's maybe not highly recruited, that they don't say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and commit so that I get my spot on this team because I want to play here. I could fully see that. It's going to be interesting to see how teams start handing out offers. In the past, it's been offer everybody you can, legitimately offer everybody you can. And sometimes when you're in your own state, you kind of play it cool because a kid may commit and you might not want to take him. You might want to eval his senior season. So many different things play into that. But it's a big day. $200,000 a year. Brian Kelly saying that's about what a player, all 85 players that are on scholarship are going to be making. Guys, that is an insane amount of money. I don't know if I want to say it's life-changing money, but if you're at LSU for 5 years, as an example, you could walk out of there with $1 million. Legitimately walk out of there with $1 million. Boy, that really incentivizes people not to leave. Maybe not go and get playing time. The biggest thing that I would say about this revenue share that is more interesting to me than NIL is what happens with the portal. What happens? A lot of players leave and want to go somewhere else because either they're not playing or they have this issue or that issue. And coaches are still going to process players. How is that conversation going to be when a player that's not, I hate to say it like this, but good enough to be at your program that he doesn't get cut? He doesn't get processed and told to be and persuaded to go elsewhere. It's a very interesting conversation to have here. Very interesting conversation. I'm told that we do have a super chat here. Yeah, we can get to it before we get to the baseball thing, guys. Jank ends on YouTube with a $4.99 super chat. He says, sorry, if been said, but is there smoke behind Jakeem Stewart reclassifying, but most pundits have dismissed it? Steve Wiltfong of On 3 said today that he's working towards it. Here are my thoughts on that, Jenkins. Thank you so much for the super chat. Here are my thoughts on that. Do I think on the field he could reclassify and be in this class and be a bona fide, a top 5 player in the country? Yes. My question has always been, who initiated him reclassifying? Let me explain. I don't think LSU was the program that had tried to convince him to reclassify to go elsewhere. I actually think that was USC. Could be wrong, strictly opinion. I will tell you this about Jakeem Stewart. It is very difficult for me to believe that LSU won't do everything humanly possible. Playing time, NIL, whatever it's going to be. You sell the house to go land him. The last that I have heard, I have not seen what Wiltfong said. Wiltfong is very plugged in. The last thing that I knew of that Stewart about the reclassifying was that he was taking courses during the summer to have the potential to do it if he wanted to give himself the option. I do think it will be interesting to see where Stewart is next weekend during the Bayou Splash. Can you get him there? I just think now with the statement that was made yesterday by what you did with the collective, all of that, the statement that you made yesterday, I am now in a boat where I just really ask the question if you're not geared up and ready to do that now. Again, that is strictly opinion. That is strictly opinion. So I do not know that. The only thing that I do know for a fact that was told to me was that he was taking courses during the summer and potentially going to reclassify. I think the kid could come in and, you start asking. Here's the question that I would say, or the thing I would say about that if you were to land a kid like him. I would really start not being worried about the defensive line as a whole. You think about what you're bringing in. Let's run down through them. You bring in a Gabe Rutherford, a Don McKinley. You would be bringing in a Brandon Brown, a Zion Williams, a Damian Shanklin, a LaJesse Harold. You bring in a kid like Stewart, guys, man, pooey. I mean, that's a filthy unit. That doesn't come off of what you've already done in that position. Like, could you imagine what you would have on the edge next year? If that happens and the players stay that you have recruited, guys, you're talking about one of the best classes that and maybe one of the best units. Like, you could legitimately go into next season and say, hey, man, I don't know about the experience. We need to see him perform. But you look at the talent along the defensive line, it's pretty stout. It's very stout. So we'll see. All right. Let's get to the second piece of news that Ross Dellinger broke today as well. But thank you for the super chat. When you ask me questions that are that deep and you send a super chat, we are going to answer them. I promise you. Ross Dellinger also had some other big news today. This time it was geared toward baseball. Not necessarily shocked that the scholarship limit is being pushed, But I did think it was shocking today during the beginning of football season that this was released. Greg Sankey told Ross Dellinger that the new baseball roster limit will probably be settled by the NCAA to be in the mid-30s. Sankey also states that it will be up to schools and universities that if they want to fulfill all 35 mid-30s, all 35 scholarships that you can now have on your roster. Schools are not required to offer full scholarships at all, nor are they required to have 35 players on scholarship on their roster. Guys, it's a significant day when this gets passed. And I don't think Greg Sankey lets that slip if he has not been told by the NCAA that they are going to do this. But for college baseball to legitimately not double, because you're talking about triple your roster limit from 11.7 to potentially 35, what do you think a guy like Jay Johnson would do? And not only that, if what I'm understanding here is correct and you're able to apply full scholarships, does William Schmidt, who was a top 30 MLB draft prospect, is that relayed to him that, hey, you have a number that you have told MLB teams that you're required? But look, we're not that Jay wasn't going to give him a full scholarship anyway, but we can give you a full scholarship now once this gets passed. You don't have to pay to come out of pocket to be here. But I think of those guys that Jay has to be borderline with, like the in-state kid, the in-state player who is going to be a superstar at Southeastern, would be a superstar at LA Tech, would be a superstar at ULL. Does Jay take a chance on a player like that because of his roster now having the availability to go to 35? And not only that, you can pay him a full scholarship and try to develop him. Man, baseball, I have felt like in the last 3 years, really in the last 4 years, really since NIL was enacted, and since Jay Johnson got here and he got a guy like Paul Skeens, and Paul Skeens is revolutionizing and getting, I don't want to say Major League Baseball wasn't cool, but Paul Skeens has been a headline, and is a headline every time that he's on the mound. I think baseball is growing at an unbelievable pace, and I am happy for that. It is I say this, and we've done 967 episodes. I've probably said it once every single week that we've done episodes. Baseball is my second favorite sport, not remotely close. I'm very happy that these kinds of things are happening. And I got to be real with you. The NCAA in the last couple of months, probably the last 6 months, has done some things that have been very logical. I think that this one is very logical. Now, I know what's going to be said by programs that are mid-majors in college baseball. You just killed us. You just ended us. I don't know what else to say. I hate it for you, but you're not making the NCAA money. They're not going to cater to you. You don't make the NCAA money because the college baseball playoff in and of itself, the SEC has ran shit for over really 3 decades, really, if you want to go back to the 90s with Skip Bertman, but the SEC has ran shit. It has ran things. The ACC has had some really damn good baseball teams. They're not going to cater to you when they make money off the college baseball tournament. Guys, look at what's happened in Omaha the last 2 years. Like, there's more eyeballs on the College World Series than there's ever been. Ever. And as much as we talk about the chaos of NIL, it is certainly with being able to get teams like Jay Johnson has assembled going in to this year. And not only that, the team that he won a national title with getting guys like Skeens, getting guys like Tommy Tanks, getting guys like Riley Cooper, and loading your roster. That is what's made college baseball elite and fantastic, in my humble opinion. Do I hate it for the mid-major programs? Yes, I do. Because that bona fide shortstop that would be at Southeastern, that would be at ULL, that would be at Northwestern, if he wants to, the kid now could get a full scholarship to go to LSU and sit there and develop, and Jay can load his roster down. Now, Jay Johnson is anything but a conventional human being, and I would venture to bet that he has been banging down Scott Woodward's door to say, I want all 35. I want all 35. I see Ryan Super Chat. He brings up an interesting point that goes along here too. Major League Baseball is making minor leagues smaller, and the draft is shorter, and it's making college baseball better. Guys, did you see how many dudes from college baseball this past year got drafted? I don't know if Major League Baseball is not trying to finally take a page out of the NFL's playbook and say, hey, let's let some of these kids go to college. Let's take the experienced guy that we can build our roster off now. Because Dylan Cruz is not that far away, and he's going to be on the Nationals team. He's not that far away. I don't know how you can triple your roster and start paying full scholarships and say that it's not a big deal. At least that's what Greg Sankey's alluding to. We'll see when the NCAA finally approves everything. But, man, if they do, could you imagine Jay Johnson, the ultimate recruiter, being able to go out there and do what he needs to do in recruiting? Guys, you could really start stacking talent. You know, quite honestly, depending on when this goes through, what did Jay know that we didn't? Possibly this. I think their roster next year is loaded. I legitimately think their next year's roster is loaded. You have a guy like Devin Sheeran that might be a long reliever next year that legitimately could give you some significant innings and is really – guys, we've seen him at 98 against an SEC team in the beginning of the season. Like, there are so many things that Jay can lean his cap on and say, like, look, man, I feel good about my infield. Like, I feel good what I'm doing in an outfield. Maybe catcher, you have some things that you need to see, and you lost a lot of arms. You lost a lot of arms last year too, but you replenished it better this year than you ever have, especially with guys like William Schmidt coming into the fold here. So a big day for Jay Johnson. Massive addition with the 20-plus scholarships from 11.7 to potentially 35 here. Does that start changing the decisions of kids in high school's minds that they don't have to come out of pocket, they don't have to worry about tops and all of that? Something that's very interesting. Look, before we go around the SEC, I do want to get, know what? Let's do this. And thank you, Ryan, for the super chat here. He says, see previous comment, $2. Thanks. He does say MLB is also making the minor league teams smaller, so there will be more players available in college. I agree. Joseph Olson says banging down Scott Woodward is a pause. Didn't I say Scott Woodward's door? Didn't I say Scott Woodward's door? I feel very confident, excuse me, in myself that I said Scott Woodward's door. Maybe I didn't, but you know what I mean. Adam says, but still very pleased. Very true. Chad says, what is it now? 3,000 kids in the minors? I'm not 1,000% sure. I'm not I'm not 1,000% sure on that. He also says competition in baseball is picking up, more kids going and staying in school longer. No doubt. No doubt. When you have more talent, people will put their eyeballs on it. Guys, like I thought A&M's roster last year and even this year is loaded. Tony Vols is always going to have a good team. Guys, they're going to get drafted high. So, yeah. All right. Let's do this. Let's get to a quick break. We'll come back and talk recruiting. We'll wrap it up with Around Your SEC. I told you this show is going longer than an hour. Might be an hour 20. Who knows? Let me pay some bills around this thing. We're back next. Stay with us. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code RuffinoJoe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO, Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
All right. Let's get to, if I can find my pen here, which I can't. Am I the only person? I know that there's got to be dudes that do this all the time. Do y'all lose y'all's pens and pencils everywhere? I mean, like, I haven't gotten up. I have no idea. Found it. So let's get to a quick recruiting update before we go around your SEC. We'll talk about this probably at length after these young men commit. Just want to give an update because this is actually the last time we'll probably talk until they commit. But Jabari Antoine is going to be committing this weekend. Top 50 prospect out of New Iberia, Louisiana. He announced today through Chad Simmons that he is down to Miami and LSU. It's interesting what we said 2 weeks ago live here on this show in reference to they're going to start picking it up, because that's exactly what they've done over the last 2 weeks. You got to go land the top DB in your state. I don't give two Rudy poos if you think he's a corner. I don't give two Rudy poos if you think he's a safety. I don't give two Rudy poos if you think he's a nickel. I don't give two Rudy poos if you don't even think the kid can play or not play at not or all. But you need to go get the top DB in your state, because history tells us, historically, things like this tells us the number one DB in the state of Louisiana normally is going to be a dog. It's not very often that the number one DB in your state is a miss. Not a lot of them are. Jabari Antoine could be a kid that can come in here now with adding DJ Pickett, that you feel really good about your DB room. You need more. You need probably another corner, maybe another safety or two, depending on how, because look, guys, after next year, you got a lot of seniors that are actually graduating. There's a lot of work you got to do there. But you're starting to feel really good about that position group as a whole. I think you grabbed and snapped the top DB that is going to be rising in this entire class, that being Chase Thomas. I fully believe that he's going to be the riser, considering the offseason that he's had. Knock on wood, the young man stays healthy. I think before all of this, he's going to be a top 150 prospect at worst. But what do I know? We said the same thing about Gabe Relaford last year, and look how he flew up. But I'm starting to gain some confidence back on LSU here. You got to take this one down to the wire, a lot like what you're going to have to do with DJ Pickett, like you're going to have to do with every recruit. You got to make sure that they sign. Got to go get him. No holds bars. Everybody lockstep and key on the same path and direction. You know, I remember a couple of weeks ago when there was chatter out there about when K. Phillips went elsewhere, Jabari Antoine decommitted. It's crazy what 2 weeks can do. Go get the kid. He can play. Historically, Westgate DBs can play, even if they give you a couple of years. Derek Williams, not that bad. So even if Jabari Antoine is a safety, if you want to use him in a nickel role, I don't care how you use him. Go get him. The dude can play. Derek Meadows, the 6'6", 205-pound wide receiver, is going to be committing on Saturday too. There's been a lot of interest for LSU over the last couple of weeks. Let's just be honest. And the biggest question that everybody had was, what is LSU going to do with now after Decorian Moore decommitted from LSU? Well, somebody forgot to tell Cortez Hankton not to panic. Something that we've said on the show. A lot of you have actually sent this to me in the comments live here, and I know that a couple of you that are watching right now, we've actually answered those questions on the show about Cortez Hankton and wide receiver recruiting. I am giving Cortez Hankton the benefit of the doubt until he proves me otherwise. That not only that he can recruit, that he can develop. Guys, at the end of the season last year, and specifically after the end of the NFL draft last year, you and I talked about Cortez Hankton a lot. 4 picks at wide receiver that he's either recruited, brought in, or developed, and really Ladd McConkey and A.D. Mitchell are both guys that he recruited and developed before he came to LSU. But he had Malik Neighbors, who we significantly think took a massive step forward last year, along with Brian Thomas, who we know did. Cortez Hankton is, in my humble opinion, one of the best developers at his position. I'm going to be real with you. I don't think that you can argue that at the current moment based off of what happened last year. Guys, Ladd McConkey's a really good receiver. A.D. Mitchell's a really good receiver. Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors may be potential Pro Bowlers. You know, a lot of people have compared Malik Neighbors to the two that you had in 19, that being Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Derek Meadows commits on Saturday, and the feeling, as of Thursday, can change at any single moment. A lot of people are leaning LSU. I know that people on that staff are highly confident about where at the current moment that they sit. However, it's always recruiting. And when things go silent, things go silent. Now, I do think something's a little bit ironic here in talking about his recruitment. We didn't mention this about Damian Shanklin, the number one player in the state of Indiana. Nobody wanted to really talk about that. What is interesting to me about Damian Shanklin, what is interesting to me about Derek Meadows, is that both of those players for a long time, the industry, like if you watch On3, if you watch 247, if you watch ESPN, thought both of those young men were going to Notre Dame. It is ironic to me that of all the things surrounding around Brian Kelly and recruiting, that you could potentially not only take two top recruits or one top recruit out of the state of Indiana, but that you could take two top premier recruits away from Notre Dame. There comes a point when Notre Dame fans have to look at themselves in the mirror. Now that Damian Shanklin is now a committed LSU, now that LSU at the current moment is trending for Derek Meadows, maybe BK wasn't wrong about what this place can do in recruiting. They just beat you for two commits that they wanted, or two recruits that they wanted, excuse me. I saw some of the meltdown today from Notre Dame fans saying LSU hasn't produced a first-round wide receiver from out of state since Dwayne Bowe, because we hadn't had to. That's how special that kid is. We haven't had to. And don't you only have one of those? Right? If I'm not mistaken, you only have one of those first round picks over the last decade. You might want to pump the brakes on what LSU does at receiver after what they just did in the first round. And not only that, what they did in college football last year. You had to come and take we took your OC. Okay, well, we still got the players. Still got Brian Kelly. Y'all act like he sucks. Things trending in the right direction. I said this early in the show, but we'll continue. Look, there are going to be players that I think are uncommitted that will be at the Bayou Splash. I also think, in talking about Cortez Hankton, to the first part of this, is not done at that position. You got Francis from Edna Carr. Potentially, you get a guy like Derek Meadows. What does a guy like Khalid Lockett do? What does Jamie French do? Can you get them to the Bayou Splash? I hate anticipating where kids are going to be for events like this 2 weeks or a week out. I hate doing it because shit's going to change from what I say on Thursday to next Friday. So I don't know what any one of these kids are going to do. I don't think anybody truly knows. Here's what I do know. Question marks were around Cortez. He has started to answer. Saturday, he could start answering some of those. Not only that, if he lands a guy like French or a guy like Lockett, he surpasses answering those questions of what he's doing. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Aquan Fagans, the safety Alabaster, Alabama. You guys listening to Auburn people today, I don't know how I feel there at the current moment. I'm just going to tell you that I don't know because I truly don't know how to feel about his recruitment. I know that there's positivity on LSU side. I know that there's positivity on Alabama side. I mean, on Auburn side, excuse me. We'll see here, man. We'll have to keep up with that one too. But can you get Jamie French, Khalid Lockett, Fagans all on campus for the Bayou Splash? If you can and get one of them, I'll be all right with that. All right. Let's go around your SEC very quickly before we get out of here. So I'm going to give you the vibes that I feel coming out of SEC Media Days for all 15 teams not named LSU. You hear me talk about them a lot already. I'm going to go in alphabetical order because I know when I make these SEC videos and if the team clips it and puts it on our YouTube channel, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to have all these different fan bases saying this guy's wrong. So this is what I feel like, strictly opinion, what I feel like the narrative is coming out of every single team coming out of SEC Media Days. Let's start with Alabama. Kalen DeBoer talked about how he really likes their offensive line and their running game, that people misremember how much they ran the football with Michael Penix just 2 seasons ago. You know, it's interesting because Michael Penix and Jane Daniels had a lot more in common in the last 2 years than people are going to give credit for, but they did. They feel like that they have not just a good unit, but potentially an elite unit and an elite running game. With a guy like Jalen Milroe, I could see where Kalen DeBoer thinks that. The interesting question that I have with that running game is, like, you know, how are you going to utilize, Jalen Milroe, Kalen DeBoer coming in, but as an offensive wizard? And I do think it's very – look, guys, Kalen DeBoer is one of the best offensive minds, play callers in the country. You got to put him there. You have to put him there. What he's done the last couple of seasons. We'll see about that running game. But Kalen DeBoer also said, because Nick Saban, of all people, asked him, what do you think that your biggest weakness is? And when Saban asked Kalen DeBoer, what is your biggest weakness? What was going through my mind was, it feels like Nick Saban was asking Kalen DeBoer, hey, what did I leave you that wasn't stacked? It's what it felt like to me. Kalen DeBoer, without missing a beat, says, we don't have a lot of experience in the DB room outside of Malachi Moore. Got a lot of talent, ain't got a lot of experience, and that scares me a little. His words, not mine. It's interesting. Kalen DeBoer and Washington last year, guys, had one of the worst secondaries, not only in the Pac-12, they had one of the worst secondaries in the entire country. In the entire country. They did have some injuries, but he's had a couple of seasons where his secondary has not been really good. It is highly intriguing to me that the unit that Nick Saban, was known for being so great at, when he leaves, it depletes. Of course it does. Of course it does. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier. That really benefits him in this wide receiver room. Arkansas, Sam Pittman, poor Sam Pittman, man, today was asked, what about Bobby Petrino being back? He must have been asked that question 1,000 times today. And I feel so bad for him because I feel like he's a lamb walking to the slaughter. The first sign of trouble, they're going to fire Sam Pittman and make Bobby Petrino their interim head coach. See what happens. I have no real feeling about Arkansas. Could they be bowl eligible? Could they get to 7-5? Maybe. Maybe they replenish themselves. Maybe Tylen Green is really good. I don't think you're going to be that good. I really don't. I know Sam Pittman's very confident. I'm not that confident in you. You have one of the worst linebacking rooms in the country, if not the worst in the country. Phil Steele came out, power rankings on linebackers, and Arkansas was dead last at that linebacking room. Let's see what they can do, man. I thought they were much better defensively a year ago, but, man, offensively, they just struggled. Can Bobby Petrino, who Sam Pittman says, I'm giving him full control, said today that he has no idea what happened at A&M with Bobby Petrino, but bottom line for me is I'm going to let him call plays. I'm going to give my input. He's going to call the plays. This is on him. Auburn, Hugh Freeze, you could tell this week when he spoke, actually today when he spoke, that not having some form of play calling duties really bothers him. I thought it was also very interesting that he's going to be highly involved in the play calling because it's his comfort zone and it's what he wants to do. However, he said something interesting today in reference to, hey, man, I don't like calling plays on 3rd and long. I'm going to delegate that to my staff. It's an area of weakness of mine. I'm going to let them do it. But, man, that's the season for Auburn for me. I know that, look, I think that they have some decent talent defensively. I actually believe defensively they're not going to be half bad. Auburn defensively might be a little nasty. If there is a defense that I think could be a sleeper, that like, man, I know that Hugh Freeze is an offensive guy, but defensively, God, dog, they have gotten a lot better. Their season falls on the shoulders of what the development of what they can do with Peyton Thorne. That's it. 100%. What is going to happen with Peyton Thorne? If he develops and has gotten better, then guys, Auburn might not be a half bad team this year. Maybe I could see a world where they could win 7, 8, 9 games. 7 being the floor, 9 being the ceiling. I think Auburn's going to be a sleeper. We'll see how it goes. Florida Gators. I feel like that whole place is burning. Every time Billy Napier speaks, every time he says something, like Billy Napier, I don't think Billy Napier truly, either he fully believes in himself and thinks that they are truly on the right direction. But this entire offseason, Billy Napier has come out and said that we are on the path and direction of where we want to go. Dog, you can't say that when you're not going, in back-to-back seasons, you're not going to bowl games. I don't mind a human being having a lot of self-confidence in themselves publicly. I think we all, to some extent, have some form of depression upon ourselves about what we do, about what the public thinks about us. Some people say that they don't, that it doesn't bother them. That's bullshit. Everybody wants to be perceived in a very good manner. I just don't know how Billy Napier believes his own lies here. I really don't. I really, really, really don't. I can't comprehend it. Get to a bowl game, Billy. Find a way to get to a bowl game. Find a way to get to a bowl game. You get to a bowl game, you have a chance to build a program around DJ Lagway. I don't think they can, man. I feel like that whole place is burning. UGA. Kirby was the most clippable of all the coaches this week for a couple of reasons. Guys, it's natty or bust for them. They have the talent. They have the quarterback. They have the play calling. They have the staff. They have everything that you would want. Tough schedule. But I don't know if it is for them. I don't know that. Texas is going to be tough. Can't deny that. A premier matchup in the conference. Natty or bust. And guys, I'll be real with you. I think that they can more than do it. If you ask me today who's going to be my national champion, I'd probably say the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't think it's remotely close. I do think that they're that good. But they've had some issues. And I don't know what to make of their issues the last year and a half. You know, Nick used to go through a lot of this too, where a lot of his players would have issues off the field, and Kirby is dealing with that same thing. But their culture isn't bad. I just think when you recruit the kinds of players that Kirby recruits, you're going to have some knuckleheads in the locker room that do some silly things from time to time. I don't think it's as bad as some have made it out to be, but there's nothing on the field that you can get them on. And they've done, and Kirby said it this week, I've done every single thing possible to try to get guys to stop doing the stupid racing and driving reckless. We find them. The collective has fined them. We've ran them. We've done everything that we know that we took playing time away from them. We don't know what else to do. And the truth is, the public only knows about them being arrested. We don't know about all the other times that they're doing stupid stuff that doesn't hit the media or the airways. I don't think it matters. Their culture is so rock solid. I don't know if it matters. The Kentucky Wildcats, Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops had one big thing that he was saying today, saying we want more. We want more after we went out there and got talent that we think that can compete. Guys, Kentucky's got to be one of the more intriguing teams in the entire country. What does Brock Vandegrift look like? They brought in a couple of weapons that can be really good for them on the outside. They're going to have a pretty damn good running game. Guys, that defense, that defensive line, that front seven for Kentucky is going to be disgusting. They potentially bring back one of, if not the best corner in the SEC, and Maxwell Hairston. At least that's what the interception showed me. I don't know if Hairston's going to be thrown at this year after having all the picks that he did a season ago and the way that he played. As it always comes down to Kentucky, we know that you're going to be good defensively. We have absolutely no idea what you will look on the offensive side of the football. I think if you said going into the season about what Kentucky has on paper, you would ask yourself, are they last year's Missouri? I don't know that. On paper, they have the talent that they could potentially do it. Mississippi State. You know, I thought it was interesting here in talking about all right, I was going to hold that for Oklahoma. I wrote it down. I'm not going to. Mississippi State hired Jeff Lebby as their next head coach, and a lot of people have questioned what he's going to do in year one. I do think he brought in a really good offensive line coach in Cody Kennedy. Cody, who has Kendall Browse ties, so the offense fits perfectly. I don't know. I think it's going to take Jeff Lebby some time. I think they schematically will be good enough to where you can't really toss Mississippi State aside, right? Like if they're on their game offensively one week, I don't think they're going to be half bad. Actually, I don't think they're going to be bad at all offensively. But, man, they've just lost so much. And they're in the ultimate rebuild mode. I love Jeff Lebby as a play caller. I think that Oklahoma fans, who their biggest vibe was that Jeff Lebby left, I have no idea how they possibly and humanly can say to themselves that Jeff Lebby wasn't a good play caller. You just didn't have the dudes yet. It's not on Jeff Lebby to recruit the offensive line when you had to go and get 5 guys out of the portal to try to replenish it. You didn't have under him a bona fide dude at receiver. Only recently have you really started to go spend money, and everything that you've been tied to and spending the NIL money that you want has been what you're doing on the defensive side of the ball because of Brent Venables and what he wants. But we're talking about the Mississippi State Bulldogs. We'll get to Oklahoma in a minute. I got to be honest with you. I really want to see how good Jeff Lebby is offensively. When he's been with Art Briles, he's been with Lane Kiffin. Guys, these offensive wizards, they don't normally strike out all the time when it comes to offensive play calling and benefiting off of that. What can Mississippi State be? I hope that they can make a bowl game this year. The Oklahoma Sooners. So, building off of what we just talked about with Mississippi State, I think that there is a lot of optimism in Oklahoma about them coming into the conference and doing really well. I do think defensively they got dudes. They got serious dudes all over the place, does Oklahoma. Danny Stutzman is really good. They got the Bowman. They got Bowman in the back end. They get 5-star, probably the best defensive tackle in last year's class, and David Stone. They go and get Demonic Williams out of the portal. They're going to have a really good defense. I think they are, after listening to Brent Venables this week and after listening to their media, who I thought was the cockiest media corps of any SEC team, which is so wild to me because Texas and Texas A&M, which Texas was pretty too, but they were just so cocky in reference to what they think that Jackson Arnold is and that the O-line's not going to be an issue. All right, buddy. All right. I know that a lot of people think that Oklahoma is soft in the SEC. Oklahoma fans said, well, listen to this. I'm sorry that you have to hear me say that. People in the SEC think that you're soft. A lot of that was built off of Lincoln, but a lot of that was built off of Stoops too. Because you go into the playoffs, you get your ass whooped. I don't think Oklahoma is going to be as bad as some believe. I don't think they're as good as they believe they are either. They're somewhere in the middle. I think about 8 games. The vibes that I get from them, though, is that they feel like they're going to come in here and go 9-3, 10-2. No, you ain't. The Missouri Tigers. We're going through this one pretty slow, but I told you it was going to be an hour and 20 minutes. The Missouri Tigers, playoff or bust for them. They felt like after what they've done, all the offensive pieces that they have returning, getting Marcus Carroll, who LSU faced last year, but getting Marcus Carroll in this running game, playoff or bust for them. How do they answer Blake Baker going? How do they answer for Kevin Peoples going? How do they answer for losing a lot of defensive talent is going to be a big question. South Carolina, who the hell knows? I think Shane Beamer is the weirdest head coach in the country. I think he's the weirdest dude in the country. Who knows? I think that he talks a big game. I don't think they got shit. I think Shane Beamer is fooling himself big time. I just don't know if they make it this year. I legitimately don't. Tennessee, big-time quarterback. How does he take the next step? You know, was it all Joe Milton last year of why the offense was so bad? Probably. What does Nico Iamaleava look like? That's going to be the big question. How good is he going to be? Defensively, their secondary, when they talk about it, guys, they have no faith in the vibes that I get about Tennessee. Tennessee's very interesting. They came into SEC Media Days, didn't make a lot of noise. Basically, I felt like their whole SEC Media Days was pretty chill. All right. Josh Heupel basically said, okay, we'll see you. Oklahoma, I'll see you early in the season. We're going to be pretty good. Texas, I think the vibes coming out is the entire fan base, Sark, everybody, which we've already talked about Saban's comments on Ruffino and Joe Show, so I won't bore you here. I think Steve Sarkisian knows about the gauntlet that it takes to win in the SEC. Guys, he was a coordinator at Bama. I don't think their fan base understands it. I don't think that they fully fathom what it's like in the SEC. How and to some extent, how could they? Right? Like, how could they know? But yeah, they think that they're going to an SEC championship game. I think we're on wait and see mode. I learned my lesson after ridiculing Sark last year. The Vanderbilt Commodores have a winning season. Get 6-6. Go to a bowl game. Poor Clark Lee. We will see y'all soon, man. Y'all have a good night. Peace.